Hello and welcome to the show. Now, Kristy was meant to be filming our next feature.
She's been banging on for months about going to the Isle of Man. Didn't quite work out like that though, did it?
No, unfortunately, I couldn't go, but I am happy to say that I found a replacement. Lara Small, otherwise known as Laramoto, and what better person to go in my place than a real motorcycle racer?
Somebody who can ride really fast, you mean?
Hello and welcome to the Isle of Man. I've just arrived off the ferry. We've gone through Douglas, headed up to Ramsey, and I'm now stood at the Gooseneck Corner, which is just at the start of the mountain section of the famous TT circuit. I have brought with me my own Ducati Supersport, and yes, I might have bought it for the looks, but it does have a 936 Testa Stretta L-twin engine on it, so pretty torquey, loads of mid-range power. Pretty much dies off at the top, but makes a huge difference when you fit a fully titanium Akrapovic manifold and rear exhaust can on it. So I love the way it sounds, especially on the downshift. You get loads of burbles out the back. In terms of its appearance, it almost has like a sports bike front to it and a cafe racer rear, but every time I park it or leave it, I just want to turn back around and look at it. I think that's the real big appeal of these Supersports. So it is the S version, so that means it has upgraded suspension, so it's got Öhlins front and rear, and that's about it. But what I have done is fitted a touring screen to it, which just makes absolutely no difference at all when you're touring, but yeah. So I've done 1,700 miles on it just before this trip, around the north coast of Scotland, ache and pain free, and it's absolutely awesome in kind of some sharp twisties. But it's not a tourer and it's not a sports bike, so it's always a compromise between the two. But I absolutely love having this bike. I really believe that this bike is perfect for this trip. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to firstly ride around the road, see what the island feels like and what it has to offer and what the road riding's like. And then I'm going to head to a museum, and I promise it's not going to be boring. I think you'll really like it. And then obviously, like all bikers, I'm going to go and get some food. So I'm going to go and sample what the island really has to offer. And then obviously tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to introduce my Ducati Supersport to the TT circuit. Right, enough talking, I want to get on my bike.
A shame there's something new under the sun. You can't take back the things you already done. No. You blame things that you do on somebody else. No. But they all see is you need help. But still you try so hard to cover up your games. You try so hard, hoping that one day something gon' change.
What I absolutely have to share with you are the views at the Isle of Man. It's actually like pretty flat around Douglas, but as you work your way up the mountain, there's this huge mountainscape. It is honestly fantastic. I have clearly chosen to stop where there are no views, but I promise you that they are great. And maybe if you're zooming a bit too fast, you might not see them either, but when you do stop, maybe for coffee and a chill out and a reflection, totally worth it. It's not a proper road trip unless you stop for a decent coffee, and the Isle of Man is no different. There are generally good coffee shops around here. You can pretty much find them on most routes, so worth stopping for a coffee and enjoying the view wherever you are. When you get to mile 31 at Bungalow, you could always stop at the Victory Cafe. Sadly not open today, but a great place to stop and chill out and reflect and absorb the absolutely beautiful views. As I suspected, my Supersport pretty much is the perfect bike for this. Not an obscene amount of power, but plenty of torque, and it draws you up the mountain really nicely. Although I'm clearly very much in love with my Supersport, there are a few Ducati-isms that perhaps let it down. Number one, it gets really hot, and I mean really hot, like you think you wet yourself hot. And it has managed to lose its brake reservoir cap just by, I assume, vibrating it off. Oh, you're okay for that. So what I've done is cable tie it and then put a little money bag over it. So that's made a huge difference for this trip. And not gonna lie, it kind of decides when it wants to let me find neutral, but big thumpy talky power, what's not to love? If you are visiting the Isle of Man, you probably have a passion for motorsport, and there is no better place to see more of it than the Isle of Man Motor Museum. Yes, they've got a huge variety of bikes, but loads of cars, new and old, and even a space capsule. Let's go and have a look. Wow, I just don't know where to start. If you are a fan of Hondas, you really need to come and see the Honda Wall. The museum has over 60 Hondas of all different styles, vintage two-strokes, tourers, motocrossers, enduros, and of course, sports bikes. They even have Joey Dunlop's TT winning 600s. You really have to come and see it to believe it. The Motor Museum has two huge mezzanines filled to the rafters with motorbikes. On this mezzanine, it's organised by brand, so I'm surrounded by Kawasaki's. And then just moving on to the wonderful Suzuki GSX-RL that I'd absolutely love to ride. And here we have the huge range of Yamahas that stretch all the way up here, and then leading up to the Ducatis. Now we reach the delicious Ducatis. Now I've always had a soft spot for these fantastic red machines. Look at this beautiful 748 and the 749S, which I'd absolutely love to ride. In fact, I reckon that you'll probably find a bike that you've owned within this museum. Speaking of which, I think there's one of mine. I've just managed to find one of my first bikes, the Yamaha Dt125. It's a slightly older model than the one I have, but I've got such fond memories of, well, that two-stroke smell, ragging it to trying to get it past 60 and tucking behind whatever windscreen protection it clearly doesn't have. I've got so many memories of these first bikes, and you will just find your bike here and it will just bring a smile to your face. Of course, it wouldn't be a motorbike museum without some absolutely vintage classic bikes, and there's some great examples of the era, including bikes that aren't in production anymore, like Douglas and Cotton. It's amazing to see how the geometry has changed over the decades, and sadly, they still won't let me sit on any of them. The museum also shows a range of bikes collected and ridden and raced by David Nobbs, known to his friends as Nobby. Now, Nobby was able to use last year's bikes and race really well, but as an amateur racer. And he's volunteered his bikes to be shown on display at the Motor Museum exhibit. So you don't expect to find in a motor museum a Russian space capsule, but I'm literally sat on top of one, and outside in an exhibition that's due to come out soon is part of a Russian space station. It's absolutely awesome. So I've nagged and nagged, and they finally let me sit on one of the exhibits, and I decided to choose this fantastic sidecar. Now, this was raced at the TT in the 60s, but sadly crashed at the bungalow. Rider was fine, however, his son then restored the bike in order for it to be raced, well, paraded around the parade lap in 2019. So the museum is full of wonderful vintage cars, but I can't help be drawn to huge displacement engines. And how big can you get with a Dodge Ram, a Viper V10? I really, really wish I could hear this running. I just need to find the keys. I'll go that way. I'm making that up. So if I could drive one of these cars, I'd probably ask to drive this one. It's a classic Alpina, and I think it looks absolutely glorious. Oh my word, it's a DeLorean. How could you not love this car? It's an absolute classic, and gull-wing doors, everyone should have them. The museum has a great collection of land speed bikes, including these 3 made here by local riders who went and broke records on these machines. The Motor Museum has so many exhibits here, and we just don't have the time to show you all of them, but they do change, so every time you come you will see something new. But what I do want to bring to your attention is Connor Cummings' TT 2010 bike. Now Connor, also known as Conrad, has set up a pizzeria, and I'm going to head off and grab a bite to eat.
I can't wait to see her do a lap of that circuit.
I know, I am so green with envy. I really wish I'd been there doing it myself, but we will get to see Lara do her lap a bit later on in the show. But now I actually do get to ride, and quite a quintessentially British brand, CCM. So I'm here today at CCM to take a look at one of their bikes that has been inspired by a massive Hollywood movie. Now, I'm not actually allowed to say what movie that is, but here's a hint.
Yeah, you know we're not actually riding that bike.
What?
We're not riding that bike.
I'm not riding this bike at all today.
No.
Because the outfit, everything. Shut up. So this is the bike that I'm actually here to ride today. It's the CCM Maverick, and there is actually a lot of heritage behind it.
The big car is a badge of success and instantly recognizable. So is the AC on the number plate, in Bolton anyway. They are the initials of Alan Clues, founder and managing director of Clues Competition Machines, who make the only successful 4-stroke motocross machine. The motocross machine has been developed around a 4-stroke BSA engine which Clues bought when BSA collapsed. Virtually the whole machine is made in Britain, mostly here in Bolton. The engine has been continuously developed to give more power to a light, strong frame. Recently, Clues has invested in his first computer-controlled machine tool. Even though output is only about 7 motorcycles a week, the machine earns its keep. Production can always expand.
Sadly, after many years of struggling to go up against the big manufacturers and surviving on military contracts, CCM was bought out in 1998 and in 2004 ceased operations. However, it was brought back by the original owner, Alan Clues, and in 2005 they started making bikes again, really hitting their stride when they announced the CCM GP450 in 2013. A lightweight adventure bike, and then in 2016 the Spitfire arrived and they never looked back.
So this bike actually has a lot to live up to. Does it have the same pedigree? Let's go ride it and find out.
the Maverick is part of the Spitfire range, which means it shares an engine, a frame and many other components with the rest of the range. But what's impressive is that they haven't just put some knobbly tyres on it and called it a scrambler. They've actually put some effort into it. The bike already had good ground clearance and adjustable suspension front and rear, so that hasn't changed, but it also has a high exit exhaust and a bash plate, not to mention this great 600cc single-cylinder engine, which is just as good on the road as it is off-road, and let's not forget its dry weight is only 145 kilograms. The ride is good, and of course being a big single, it feels pretty vibey, with all the grunt nice and low down in the rev range, which it is to be expected. Please don't think that it's being vibey is a bad thing though. In fact, it's nice to ride something with so much character when so many modern engines are almost too smooth and can feel sterile and dull. The gearbox was a little disappointing. I hit neutral a few times when moving down into first, but I wouldn't let that put you off. Build quality is good too. Everything looks really well made and well put together, and it definitely feels worth the price tag of £9,995. Although it is worth mentioning that the version I'm riding also has the optional Legend package, which adds a rather hefty £2,699 to the price tag. But honestly, it's kind of worth it, because all the carbon and built-in extras really finish it off nicely. So I've just come back from riding the CCM Maverick, and I've got to be honest, I have had a blast on it. Now, I didn't get a chance to take it off-road, but that's not to say that it can't. Here's some footage of Dougie Lampkin. This bike ticks all the boxes on the looks department. She really is a beautiful piece of machinery. And I've just come back from riding her, and I gotta be honest, I have had so much fun. She really is amazing to ride. But is it the bike that you will choose if you had £10,000 and you were purely gonna ride off-road with her? It's probably not. There are other bikes that can serve that. But I tell you what this bike does serve is that if you've got a little bit more kicking around and you want just something extra in the garage, something to take out on a Sunday and really show off to your friends with, this is the bike for you. This is the status symbol to do that. I really enjoyed that bike. It's got so much character. But now it's time to go back and see Lara do her lap of the TT circuit.
It is pizza time, very excited. Having been inspired by seeing Connor Cummings' race-winning TT bike at the Isle of Man Motor Museum, I had to visit Conrod's Pizzeria in order to taste some delicious pizzas. So I can't wait to try them out. Hey buddy, how you doing?
Alright, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad actually. I Quite excited because I've heard you do great pizzas and I've always wanted to make one myself and use that proper pizza oven thingy.
Yeah, the paddle.
Yeah, the paddle, yeah, awesome. Is this acceptable? I think.
That is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to leave it on.
Your turn. Yeah, yeah. Nailed it. Straight on. Making a pizza.
Some oversheet on that too. The all-important cheese.
Yes, cheese. Cheeses. Cheese. I think this is the best bit. Nailed it. Ready? No, not quite.
Yeah, there you go. Then just shuffle.
Yeah, nailed it. Nice. In the middle-ish? Great. Thank you very much. So I was meant to demonstrate a first taste of this delicious pizza, which I incidentally made myself. But I was trusted to sit here with a warm pizza and not eat it whilst the producers set the kit up. That ain't gonna happen. So I have made a vegetarian pizza. It is absolutely delicious and all the products on it are sourced locally, which is even more important for the Isle of Man. So they said I could choose any pizza I want. So I chose 3. I went for a classic vegetarian. I've got here a Mediterranean one with feta cheese and tomatoes, and then a very traditional pepperoni. So I've smashed this one, and now I'm going to start working on the Mediterranean one. So let's see what this tastes like. I handmade this one myself, but the local team made this delicious Mediterranean one. See how we get on. Okay, I have a new favourite. I have really enjoyed my lunch here and I feel very well fed and watered before I head back out onto the road. So I've had the choice of 3 pizzas. I've worked my way through a couple of them and I'll save these for later. And then also I've had a delicious coffee and a chocolate flapjack made on the same day, which has been brilliant. What I also like about this place is there might be a chance that Connor Cummings might turn up, so it's great to have the association with him and his credibility around the TT and actually be part of that and the Isle of Man scene. Also great to know that everything that this pizza has been made from is sourced locally, so you're just supporting the local community by visiting. I literally can't figure out if Connor Cummings is a better motorbike rider or restaurateur, because those pizzas were bloody delicious. I am at the start line of the famous Isle of Man TT. I've got up a little bit early in order to enjoy it when the speed limits might lift. It's going to be absolutely awesome. I can't wait to tell you all about it, and I'll see you in a bit. my word. What a circuit. That was absolutely fantastic. Tom, do you know what my time was? It was like 45 minutes, I think. It's just unreal, considering the fastest lap round here is like just under 17 minutes. And yes, I got stuck in traffic and I couldn't really send it. And you know, maybe I could do it in like 25, maybe 30, but it's just unbelievably rapid. Furniture flying past and then up at the mountain. It's just, the scenery is amazing. None of the riders would be watching any of that, but it's just beautiful and it's so amazing just to have an island dedicated to a race like this. Yeah, absolutely fantastic and jaw-dropping with the speeds that these people achieve. It really is the best race on earth. Right, can I go again? So I have had an absolutely wonderful time at the Isle of Man for the last couple of days. Firstly, the excitement of getting off the ferry and then immediately heading through the town and following the TT course. And once you get to like the back of the mountain, the scenery absolutely opens up. The speed limit disappears and you could just enjoy yourself and a bit of freedom of riding. It's almost like a mini Nürburgring feel to it. It is absolutely brilliant. And then secondly, the food's been great. Obviously I've been to Conrad's Pizzeria and it was really tasty, and there's plenty of other restaurants to choose from here in the Isle. And then finally, what's made it really special is the locals. Now I've dumped my Ducati here and had conversations with the locals who have said how much they like it or like bikes, and they've got like TT hats on, so there really is a sense of Ireland pride with what they do in the race scene here. But what isn't quite right is perhaps the cost of the ferry. Now this is a monopoly. Just to give you an example, to get to France or get to Europe it's 68 quid return, but to get to the Isle of Man it's 219 quid, and it just feels a bit unfair for paying those prices. Yes, fair enough for the TT, but not so much in the off season. And it is a monopoly, and perhaps that could be better priced to encourage more visitors to the island. But in conclusion, I have had an absolutely wonderful time and I've really enjoyed my stay here. And it feels like a bit of a mini holiday. Come here for a long weekend, because just getting on a ferry and going to a destination just feels a bit different. It makes it feel like you've got a break from being in the UK. So thank you very much, Isle of Man. I've really enjoyed my visit and I hope to come again soon.
Look at her go. Totally the right choice. And let's be honest, her riding ability puts all of ours to shame.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, the Isle of Man looks a cracking place to ride and visit.
It does, yes, and thank you, Lara, so much for helping us out at the last minute. You did an absolutely fabulous job. Don't leave us just yet, because you can watch all the outtakes in the credits. But until next time, ride safe.
I'm going to take the piss out of you on the internet. And even outside, there is a part of a Russian space station. It's really awesome. Blech. Now, you don't expect to find in a motor museum part of a Russian space capsule, but there is one here and it's well worth seeing. And outside, sorry, this has gone to poo. But sometimes you might be pegging it a bit too much. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. You can't peg. That's where a man with a stick.
Why are you doing this slow mo? Put some cheese on, surely.
Oh, put cheese. Okay, this cheese.
Look at her go. Totally the right choice, and let's be honest, her riding ability
It does, doesn't it?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'll go again.
Been banging on for months about going to the Isle of Man. Didn't quite work out like that, did it? I just...
What? Was I putting a silly face?
I really enjoyed that bike. No, don't know why I clapped. Not me, sorry. Turned into Graham then.